So welcome to today's session on calendars. Um, Personally, I never used a calendar in my life until they introduced a computer-based calendar. And now if I don't have a calendar, I am completely and utterly lost. There's so many demands on all of our times that having a good calendar helps you with planning, especially when it comes to shared calendars. Your colleagues can see when you're available, when you're not available. It just cuts out so much organization time. So today's session is going to be all about the calendar on the Mac. I'm concentrating on the Mac. Everything that you see here is replicable on the iPhone and iPad, but I think just for consistency and for simplicity, we'll stick with the Mac. So I'll share my screen. And start off with the Mac. So here's the simplistic view of the calendar, the view that you get the very first time that you set it up. There's a plus button that allows you to add new events. You can view your calendar by day. You can view your calendar by week. You can view your calendar by month. And you can view your calendar by year. I'll come back to the keyboard commands afterwards, but there are some really nice keyboard commands if you're a keyboard person. Command 1 is day, command 2 is your week, command 3 your month, and command 4 your year. If you want to move from week to week or day to day, you can use the arrows to go backwards and forwards. You can see if we're in week view, it goes week by week. If we're in month view, it goes month by month. If we're in day view, funnily enough, it goes day by day. And if we want to see what's happening in the year 2525, we'll be able to skip through to that particular year. Now, if we want to return back to today, we can either click today, or the keyboard shortcut is Command T, which will take you back to today, and you'll see today is highlighted with Monday the 21st. So the key to any calendar is the event. So the simplest way of making an event is to use the plus button over here. And calendar understands natural language. So if I wanted to have lunch with Angelo sometime, maybe on Friday, I could say lunch with Angelo on Friday. And as you see, as I'm typing, it knows that lunch could be between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And it's taking next Friday, which would be Friday the 25th. If I said next Friday, it would say the following Friday. If I change this to breakfast, for example, you'll see it'll block out the time from 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock. But let's say lunch with Angelo. And I hit return, and it pops it in to Friday with an hour blocked out, and it gives me a pop-up which allows me to add to or modify this particular calendar entry. Now, one thing most people think is that if they move away from this, this disappears. Well, firstly, this little pop-up is a selectable window, and we can click and drag it so we can go and check other events without getting rid of that. So I can go and see what other dates I've got set up, compare and contrast, and leave that on screen. So let's have a look at some of the other things that we can do. So I want to have lunch with Angelo, and I want to have it, let's say I want to meet with Angelo at Primi in the waterfront. So if I start to type location, Primi, it automatically starts to look up various Primi Piatti. So let's have a look at the one in Constantia. If I click there, it actually looks up the location and pins it so that my guest will know where to go, because this calendar invitation is going to be shared with Angelo. I want to add a couple of more features to it. So if I click on the timing, I said, you know, we didn't want to start at 12. We want to start at 12:30. So if I was to click on the actual day, I get a little picker so that I don't have to type in exactly the correct date and time. But if I click on the time, I can change it. So let's say make this 12:30, hit tab, And because we'd set it up for an hour, it's moved the 1 o'clock to 1:30 as well. Now, what if Angelo and I wanted to meet up every day, every Friday? Well, I could make that a repeat. So I could say, well, let's do it not every day, not every week. Yeah, let's do it every week. Okay. And if I go to the following week, you'll see it's added lunch with Angelo. In fact, let's take the time back to 12 o'clock so it's not hidden. There we go. That becomes a little bit easier. And now we've got lunch with Angelo on Friday, lunch with Angelo the next Friday, and that happens every week. So that's quite convenient. So let's open this up and get a bit more info. And I want to see when I need to leave to get to that location. So let's click on here. And well, a couple of things before then. I want this to repeat until the end of the year. So let's say we'll repeat until December 31st, and then that repeat will stop. Now, it knows where Primi is in Constantia, and it also knows where I am. So if I click on travel time, it calculates the travel time walking or driving from Ainsley Road. So I'm feeling healthy, I want to walk, so I'll click walk, and I'm going to do it just for this event. We'll come to it in a minute. You see it adds the 26 minutes to my travel time, to my diary entry. So I know when I need to leave. By default, there is an alert which we can set up in preferences, and my alert is to set up 30 minutes before every meeting. But I can change that to whatever time I want to. And because I've got travel time associated, it's also create an alert when it's time to leave. I can say that's fine, but actually I want 5 minutes before I start to leave, so I've got time to get in the car. So I say, okay, alert me 5 minutes before I have to leave the place. So now I want to let Angelo know that he's invited to this meal, because otherwise it's just going to be a quiet little meal with me. So I'm going to add Angelo's name in there, and it looks up all the ANs. I'll go ANG, it's narrowing it down a little bit. So I'll go to Angelo and I'll add him as an invitee. It hasn't been sent yet because I haven't clicked the send button. But if I click on the little pop-up menu over here, I could make Angelo optional. So if there's multiple people that we're inviting to this event, I could add people. I could make some people obligatory, some people optional, and they would know that, listen, this is meeting going on, we're having lunch, you're welcome to join us, but it's not obligatory. I could show the contact card. I could invite them again if somehow they didn't get the invitation, or I could send them an email. If I choose send email, it opens up a mail with the schedule that we've got, with the location we're going to have it, and I could just click send, and it would send him an email manually as opposed to the invitation that I've just sent him. So let's have a look at a bit more. Say I wanted to add some notes to it. Love to see you. You're always good company. Okay. Now, he might want to know a little bit more about this place. I mean, he could click on the pin, but if I wanted to, I could say, assuming this is their address, I could go www.primi.co.za. I'm just making this up. It may or may not be their address. And also, I've gone in and I've had a look at the menu, and I want Angelo to have it without having to go out of his calendar. So I could click add attachment, and on the desktop, I've got a little menu that I've downloaded. If I click open, it adds the menu to my invitation. And if I click on the little pop-up arrow, I can preview that. And you can see what the menu looks like. So any meeting that you want to have with anybody, or any calendar event where you're going to be meeting up with somebody, you can add notes to it. You can add a URL if you want them to prep for something. You can add pictures, you can add PDFs, you can add documents. If it's work that you're going to be doing together, you could make a Word document, a Pages document, a Numbers document, and so on. So you can literally prep yourself for a meeting just by putting all this information in here. If I click send, oh, by the way, remember I said this was a pop-off, and I could change the various days that I'm on. If I want to go directly back to that entry, I click show, and it just takes me straight back to that particular event on the appropriate day. So now I'm going to click send, and Angelo is going to get an invitation in his mail. It's going to pop up on his calendar, and it'll give him to accept, to maybe, or to decline the invitation. So that's the first way that I can make an event, by using the natural language parser and then going in and filling out the rest of the information. Now, what if I wanted to have a repeating event? Like here, I've got lunch from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock every day. I've just blocked out some time, but it's not appearing on Saturdays and Sundays. Well, how have I done that? Well, let's say over here, I'm going to go for a run every morning at 7 o'clock. So another way of creating an event is just clicking and dragging, and you can do it in 15-minute increments. So start at 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:30, 7:45, 7:30. If I hadn't released that, that would be in 7:30. Let me just drag and resize it. So now I have a new event. I'm going to double click it, and I'm going to say, go for a run. Now, I want to have this as a repeating event, but I want it to be a specific occasion, because if I said repeat this every day, it repeats on Saturday and Sunday as well. And I'm not going for a run on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to chill. So if I go into here, I can choose custom. And with custom, I can set up a custom event. So let's say I wanted to do this every 3 days. If I click OK, now this event happens every 3rd day. But that's still not particularly what I want. So if I go back to here, I want to repeat this. Again, custom, but I want this to happen every week. Sorry, I beg your pardon, custom. I want this to happen weekly, and I want it to appear on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. If I click OK now and move this off to the side, you'll see that I have this now occurring Monday through Friday, nothing on Saturday and Sunday. So I really can build some quite nice customization without having to build multiple instances of this and say, repeat every Monday, do a new one, repeat every Tuesday, make another one, repeat every Wednesday. I literally can go in and specify the days that I want this to appear. Another thing that might happen is, let's say I meet up with some people in the forest every Thursday, but it's the first Thursday of every month. So I can say, okay, forest event. And again, I want this to be a repeating event. Let's make it custom. And this one, I want it to be monthly. And here I can say, every month on the 9th or every month on the 18th, but I actually want it to be on the first Thursday of every month. And now if I go to September, sorry, October, where were we there? First Thursday. There we go. Thursday the 1st is breakfast to the team. And now I hit enter here. Go for a run. Maybe I didn't change it in the forest. Well, let's do it. Let's move into the side. I've lost this. So let me go into my search and type forest. Forest event. Okay. Thursday the 5th November. Okay, that's the first one. If I go into the next month, what's the first Thursday? Go for a run is on the 3rd. The next one, go for a run. The first Thursday is on the 7th. So I can create very, very specific repeating events that can help me set up my calendar and plan my days. The final thing that you can do is an all-day event. And instead of blocking out and dragging down here, for example, throughout an entire day, maybe start at 8 o'clock and finish it at 6 o'clock, which tends to mess up with any other calendar events that you've got, because now I'm hiding this event over here. You can click on an event up at the top above this line, you make a new event, and by default, it's an all-day event now. So let's say study day. And if I click on it, you'll see it's an all-day event. Right? Now, if I've got an existing event, like go for a run, for example, or breakfast with the team, if I double click on this one and I choose my timing, I can make that an all-day event as well. Now, this event is actually a repeating event. So I've chosen a bad example, but I'll change all, and you'll see it'll move that to an all-day event at the top. So I can take existing events, make them all-day events, or take all-day events and turn them into specific timed events should I want to. So that's really the creation of events and the ability to, let's revert that, the ability to customize it to quite a large degree. Now, you'll see that some of these events over here are in different colors. Now, at the moment, I'm just showing you the dates and the times, the day view, week view, and month view. But if I click on calendars, I reveal the sidebar, and you can see over here that I actually have quite a lot of different calendars that I'm viewing. So the default is to have calendars on your Mac. If you have set up your iCloud account when you set up your machine the first time, calendars will include your iCloud calendar. And I also have a couple of additional calendars that I subscribe to, but they're not visible here at the moment. So the sidebar shows me all my cloud-based calendars. It also shows me calendars, suggestions that come from Siri. And the Siri suggestions are the operating system looking at any application you might have approved it to, like your mail, for example. And if it finds any emails that might have a travel ticket, a flight information, some email that was talked about a meal, you may find Siri suggestions suggesting what might be an appropriate calendar event that you can add should you choose to. In addition, down at the bottom, we've got this little small mini calendar of the month. Now you can resize this. If I drag it up to the top, you can see I can get 3 or 4 different mini calendars. So instead of having to switch to year view, I can see, okay, the first Thursday in November is on the 5th. The first Thursday in December is on the 2nd. So I can raise and lower that to show as many or as little, depending on how much screen space that I've got. If I've got a really huge monitor, I can drag it down and get more than the 4 that you saw over here. Now, you can see that I now have multiple calendars showing. So it becomes quite important to be able to maybe color code them so that you can see quite easily which calendar is represented by which color. And what I want to do is I want to go into my calendars. So I'm going to go into my preferences, and I'm going to go to my accounts. And you'll see over here that I've got my iCloud calendar that's enabled. But I want to go to my Digicade calendar, which I disabled for the beginning of this presentation. I'm going to click Enable. And in a second or two, the Digicade Exchange calendar will appear here, and events will start to populate over there. I'm also, there we go, Digicade calendars come up, and we'll start seeing events pop up. Now, if I go to my Google Calendar, which is another calendar I've set up for personal stuff, I enable that calendar, and once again in the sidebar we should see Google appear any second now, and that will show us some more events. So while that's refreshing, let's run through, I'll just hide this for a minute, let's just run through some of the settings in your calendar. So calendars isn't necessarily the only calendar that you can have on your machine. I happen to have purchased a third-party calendar called Fantastical, which I really love. So I use that as my main calendar, and you can set it as the default for when you enter new calendar entries. You can choose what day to start the week on. Some people like to start the week on Monday and have Saturday and Sunday at the end. And if I, let's show it one more time. Okay, you can see all my calendars, my Google Calendar and my Exchange calendar appearing. So let's go back to preferences. And if I choose to start my day on a Monday, then Monday is the first day of the week and Saturday and Sunday comes towards the end. I prefer to have a more traditional, my week in the middle and buttressed by Saturday and Sunday. I can choose to start my day at a particular time. So people can't invite me for things earlier than that, and I can end my day at a particular time, and I can choose a number of hours to show inside my my day view by default. So I can say, well, show me 24 hours. And you can see everything crunches down. I can see the entire day, but I choose to have about 14 hours so that I can see a little bit more detail calendar. Now, when you make new calendar entries, you can, by default, it will be whatever calendar that you have selected in the sidebar. So if I wanted to make a new calendar entry over here, and I just clicked on Alan over there and made a new entry, I'll say new entry, it's in my Google Calendar. But if I was to choose the home calendar and made a new event, you'll see it's in my home calendar. So the default is to have whatever calendar is selected, but you can make any of your calendars the default calendar. So if you have one that is your primary calendar that you're always creating events for, you can literally go in and force it to do that. And if you make the calendar in the wrong event, if you make an event in the wrong calendar, for example, the lunch with Angelo is inside my personal calendar, but I want it to be in the work calendar, I can do a couple of things. I can double click it and transfer it to my work calendar, or I can just take this, drag it into my work calendar, move it, and you see the colors changed. And if I open it up again, you'll see that's in my DigiCape Exchange calendar. So it becomes quite easy. It doesn't matter if you create it in the wrong calendar, you can move these into a different calendar with no problem. So if you've done any of these sessions with me, you'll know that typically I don't use the On My Mac services in reminders, in calendar, because for me, the crucial part of having this information is to be able to have it wherever I want it, whatever device I happen to be using. So I typically use either the Gmail or the iCloud or my Exchange calendar, which are all cloud-based. If you delete these calendars, the On My Mac option will disappear and you won't be able to get it back until you go to alerts and you add On My Mac back to the calendar. I don't know about you guys. Personally, I don't see any mileage in having a calendar that isn't available on the internet and not shared with my devices. So having a cloud-based calendar gives you one of two things. You've got calendars that can be viewed on all your own personal devices. And if you put a meeting in one of those shared calendars, it appears on all your devices. But secondly, you can share calendars with other people, or you can subscribe to other calendars that other people have made, whether they're public or private calendars. So let's just run through the settings a little bit further. Down at the bottom, you saw we've got other. You saw Siri suggestions, and if I choose Show Birthdays Calendar, let's ignore that. You'll see birthdays appear, and if I go back a week, oh look, Wednesday the 9th. One of our attendees had a birthday. Happy birthday, Cam. So it pulls this information from your contacts, and if you've got any birthday events in your contact, it's automatically populated into your calendar. The other thing which I can't seem to get working at the moment in South Africa, and I'm not quite sure why, but if you choose Show Holidays Calendar and you're in the UK, for example, it automatically pulls down the calendar for the UK. If you're in the US, that would be the US. But not to worry, I'm going to show you how to populate it with additional calendars further on. We've looked at these various options. If you have a complex cloud-based calendar like Exchange, it's possible to delegate your authority on your calendar to let somebody else populate it for you, but that goes slightly beyond the bounds of this particular session, so I'm going to skip that. You can set up separate alerts per calendar, so, or rather not per calendar, but per service. So if I want my DigiCape Exchange calendar to give me an alert maybe 1 hour before every event, I can have that separate from my personal iCloud calendar, which will give me an alert 30 minutes before an event. We can also choose to show or hide the time to leave. We can show or hide whether you're getting alerts from Notification Center or any of the alerts appearing in your Notification Center in the sidebar as you might expect it to happen when you have that clicked. Finally, in the advanced features, we've got turn on time zone support. So if we are having a meeting with a variety of other people in different countries, if you turn on time zone support, you can see what the time is in those countries. And one of the other ones, which is useful and not on by default, you see the year calendar here is rather sparse. But if we show events in year view, it tends to populate the mini calendars with color coding, and the deeper red the calendar goes, or the date goes, the more events you have on that day. So if I click on April the 9th over here, you'll see that there's quite a few events on that day. But if I click on the 27th, there's less events on that day. So it just gives you a quick sort of heat map of what your days look like within the months. Okay, so I'm going to stop with that one because we're kind of short of time. And I want to show you how to share or to subscribe to public calendars. So over here in my iCloud, I've got a calendar. This is the family calendar. Those of you who attended Angelo's screen time and family sharing session will know that if you set up family sharing, it creates a calendar automatically that's shared with all the people in your family, just pops up automatically in your calendar. My wife is the moderator of the family sharing account. So if I click on this little share icon, you'll see it's shared by her, and it's shared by my son, myself, and my daughter. So if we want to plan any family events, we just pop them up into that calendar, and it's automatically on everybody else's calendar. So let's say I want to make a new calendar that I want to share with you guys. So I'll go File, New Calendar, and I want this one to be in iCloud. And you can see it gives me the opportunity to where I want to save it. So let's make it in iCloud, and I'm going to call this Training Sessions. Okay. So now, if I click over here, it will allow me to share this with individuals or to make a public calendar. So if I want to make a read-only version of this calendar that I want to put up on the internet or send to a bunch of people, it might be a soccer schedule that we've got or a pub quiz thing for the entire year, I can literally make this a public calendar, click Done. And if I click on it again, you'll see I have the address for that calendar. So there's a couple of ways I can share this. I can click on the share option, and if I go to Mail, it makes a new event with that link. I can put that on a website. I can copy that link, put it on a website. I can send it to people in my mailing list, and they will get a read-only view of that calendar that they can subscribe to and have appear in their own calendars. If I want to share this with specific individuals, like for example, say I want to share this with Angelo and give him read and write access, I just type in his email address. It should look him up. Yep, there goes Angelo. Click accept him. And now if I click Done, Angelo will get an invitation via mail to say, Alan wants to share this calendar with you. And he'll be able to join that calendar, and he'll be able to see what the events are and plan his day. Now we can turn these all on and off if we want to. So if I go to see the red ones over here is my personal Google one. If I want to hide it, I can hide it. I want to show it, I can show it. I have a lot of options in terms of displaying the content. If I quickly want to turn off all of the calendars in a particular cloud, I hold the Command key down and click on any one of them, and they all go. Command key, and it turns them all back on again. So I don't necessarily have to click each one on and off and on and off and on and off. So that's showing my calendar. And then the second one is subscribing to a calendar. So over here, I have an option to enter a new calendar subscription. And I have to know what the address of that calendar is. So I don't know if it's a fault of my machine or if it's a fact that Apple don't have South Africa's calendars, but there's a number of websites that publish calendars, and the calendar format for iCal is an ICS file, .ics. So I did search for calendars shared ICS, and I found one office holidays, your home for the holidays. And here's a South African calendar that I can subscribe to. So if I copy this text, so copy, and I go to subscribe to the calendar and paste that URL in, I click subscribe. Okay, so it now opens up a new window. So it's, okay, this is called South African holidays. I'm just going to call this new South African holidays so I don't confuse it with the other ones. I can change the color. Let's make it brown. Now, assuming the person who made the calendar put alerts on events, I can switch those off. They may have put attachments in that calendar and I don't want them, I'll turn it off. Now, it's unlikely that the South African holiday calendar is going to change within the year, so I don't need to refresh it. I can say no. But if it's another calendar, which might be NASA launch events, and there might be, I might want to know when NASA are launching new rockets because I'm keen on it and I want to check up in the news, I can say, you know, refresh this every day. So if there is a change to the launch schedule, I can have it updated once a day. And if there's any alerts attached to them, I can choose to ignore it. So this one, in this case, I'm going to choose no, click OK. That's a message, error message from another service. But if you see here, new South African calendar, it may take a second or two to appear. No, there we go, South Africa. If I double click on that one, here we go, South African Heritage Day. There's a little bit of information about it. There's a link to their website. So now I have access to this calendar and I can hide or show it depending on my whim. And I can set up different views so that I can choose to show the information or not. Okay, a couple of last things to end off with. Often we put entries in here and we can't find them. The find is hugely important. I made some calendars some time back, which were load shedding calendars, which I shared with the family. So with level 1, level 2, level 3, eventually load shedding, which became so frequent and so changeable that I lost interest, but I wanted my team to know what time the load shedding was on. So if I type in load over here we've got all the load shedding, December 21st, 2008, 22nd. If I double click on that, it takes me to that date. And I've got all the load shedding calendars, all the load shedding events that were planned for. So blue was level 1, yellow was level 2, red was level 3. So I could switch them off. And if you had level 1, I knew what time the load shedding was in that particular week on those particular days. And I was planned, I was prepared for it. So find is very important. If you lose something, make sure that you use words that you can find easily. Printing is also incredibly useful. If I choose print, if you need a hard copy of something, it's very, very flexible. Firstly, it looks at all the calendars that you've got. So if you want to print out your entire schedule, you can do, but you can say, you know what, I'm not interested in my home or this work calendar, and I'm not interested in these guys over here. And can you see how it's adjusting inside the view over here? So I can say, okay, I want a week view. No, maybe I don't. Maybe I want a month view. The range, I want this to start on, let's say, November 2020. Give me 3 months. Give me the calendars that I've chosen and include all-day events. If I exclude all-day events, you'll see some are disappearing, some are reappearing. Timed events, which are normally your meetings, show or hide them. Mini calendar, hide the little mini calendar up at the top. Show me the key or hide the key. And also you can do a black and white version if you want to, and you can also adjust the font size. So I'm going to click continue. I'm not going to print this, but if I choose open in preview, you'll see I now have a 3-page calendar of November, December, and January with a variety of events that are scheduled that I can send to somebody as a PDF if they don't have a compatible calendar system and so on. So rather useful. As ever, we're coming to the end. Calendar help is incredibly useful. It will help you choose calendar help. It has a very nice table of contents. It has instruction on how to use it, how to set events, how to set times, how to share calendars. I really do encourage you. People have spent a long time building this, and it's very beautiful, very beautifully done. In addition, keyboard shortcuts, again, I'm a big keyboard shortcut fan. I don't necessarily like moving from the mouse to the keyboard, from the mouse to the keyboard. So if I wanted keyboard commands to go to the next day, command right arrow, command right arrow, command right arrow, command left arrow takes me to the previous ones. So if I'm in a day view, this will take me to the next day. If I'm in a week view, it takes me to the next week. If I'm in a month view, it takes me to the next month. Some very useful, let's go back to keyboard shortcuts. I did say that today was Command T. So if it Command T, it takes us to today. And this is another really useful one. If you do Command Shift T, it allows you to type in the date that you want. So if I go, say, 13th of the 10th, it will take me to 13th of October. Finally, we can merge calendars together. So say, for example, I wanted to merge the 3 load sheddings into a single calendar. The easiest way of doing it is just taking the one and dragging it into the other. And it'll say, do you want to merge load shedding 2 with load shedding 1? Yes, I do. And then it'll delete load shedding 2, having added it to load shedding 1. And I could do the same for load shedding 3. So if I wanted to merge calendars just into one big calendar, I can do that. Another way of doing that would be to select the calendar and export the calendar. And you see, when we export the calendar, we got 2 options. We can export it or archive it. Now, an export literally just takes the events that are in that calendar. So let's say load shedding 2, I'll export that. And now I could go to load shedding 1, and I could say import. There's load shedding 2, I choose import, and now it'll ask me which calendar I want to add it to. So I could merge them together that way. The reason why I'm spending a little bit of time on this is because when you come to export, there's the export option and then there's the archive option. Now, an archive is a backup. And it's probably a good idea to back these things up, just like anything else. You can back it up separately from your time machine backup. If you've got something that you're making some changes and you want to restore it, if you're planning some stuff up, you can have a base model that you're working with. The big difference is when you import, well, let's just export load shedding 1 as a calendar archive. So let's just save that. Takes a little bit longer. Close this guy up. And down here, you can see I've got the exported file, which is an ICS file, which is really tiny. And we've got the backup file, which is about 40 megabytes. Now, the difference is if I import this into a calendar, it just adds any event that's in this file to my calendar. Alternatively, if I import from a backup, it deletes all the source material that's in the original calendar. So it's very important that you know the distinction between the two, because the one is literally an archive of the calendar and will replace anything that's in the calendar you're bringing it into, whereas the export function will let you bring it in and add to the existing content. So that's really everything I know about calendars, I think. There's probably a bit more, but I've gone way over my time. So I'm going to stop sharing and ask if anybody has any questions for me.
I do, as usual, Ellen.
Hey, Mandy.
Sorry, I managed to make this one for a change. And what I wanted to ask you is all of this compatible with everybody else's calendars? I find I send the invites out to people who only have Gmail, who have Outlook or whatever, and they tell me things like they're getting a different time. Like, say I've scheduled for 1 o'clock, they're seeing it as 1:30 or something. I have a few problems sometimes because, unfortunately, I do work with government and they have their own systems. They say to me, you must use Google to send your invites out. Use Google Calendar, because they get all kinds of weird stuff with iCal. Is that something that can be resolved?
Not really, because Google and iCal are very similar. They, in many respects, iCal is very different to the Exchange, the Microsoft calendar. As long as your time zones are set properly and as long as your device is set up properly, then there should be no issues with date and time. There's no knowing what's set up on their end. And, if there's a problem with, you send somebody a document and they haven't got the font, it's going to look different. So, with the best will in the world, I use Apple calendars for setting up my calendars. I invite people who have Google. I invite people who have Word. There has been one or two times when I've invited government, and they've pitched up 2 hours late because I think the time zones weren't set up properly. But yeah, what can I say? It has to be set up properly. The other thing that doesn't always work is, for example, Microsoft has quite a lot more fields inside there. So I was talking about URLs, I was talking about notes, I was talking about attachments. Not necessarily everything additional that you add in will go through. And that's just really just experiment, trial and error.
Can one, in a set calendar, you can only have one color? In other words, if you've got multiple events, but you're using one color, is there no way to create other colors? Or do you have to actually then create different calendars?
Yeah, the calendars, the color of the calendar is related to the calendar, not to the event. And the idea for that is to differentiate when you're looking at an overview, because your calendar might have your own personal data. Like if you're gymming and stuff, you're doing it in the morning, you don't want that in your work calendar. So when you've got work and personal and maybe your husband or your partner's calendar that you subscribe to, you'll be able to tell at a glance which one's which. Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody, once again. It's lovely to see you guys all here. And we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday.